Welcome to the Revolution of Purpose podcast. I'm your host, John Street, and each week we bring you conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and individuals who have aligned their life with purpose and created extraordinary results.
So I'm going to live through it and accept it radically with grace and hope and love.
I would be proud to be in this council.
It was an honor. I had so much fun.
Tune in every Monday for the Revolution of Purpose solo show and every Thursday for Revolution of Purpose conversations. Welcome to this week's Revolution of Purpose solo show. This episode is all about your calendar and how your calendar is writing your future. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I just don't have time? Or I know that I should do something, but who has time to do that? I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to write the book. I don't have time to build the business. I don't have time to work on my marriage. I don't have time to pursue my purpose. It's one of the most common phrases that we use, and most of us believe it's true, like down deep in our identity. But over the past several years, as I've coached people through major life transitions, I've watched them transform their health, their relationships, their finances, their sense of purpose. I've become convinced that we've been asking the wrong question. The issue usually isn't whether we have enough time. The deeper question is, who is deciding how that time is spent? Because time is one of the few things that every one of us receives in exactly the same amount. We all have the same 24 hours in every day. Every morning, whether you are a billionaire or barely making ends meet, whether you're 25 or 75, whether you're living your dream or wondering how you got so far off course, you receive the same 24 hours. The difference is not found in how much time we have. It's found in what our time is quietly creating. I think one of the most honest documents you'll ever create is not your resume. It's not your bank statement. It's not your social media profile. It is, in fact, your calendar. Because your calendar doesn't tell me what you say is important. It tells me what repeatedly receives your attention. It tells the truth, whether you want it to or not. In fact, I want to offer you a thought that has completely changed the way I look at my own life. Your calendar is your autobiography, written one day at a time, one appointment at a time, one meeting at a time. Every commitment, every yes, every no, every hour that you intentionally invest or unintentionally surrender is writing the story of who you're becoming. Most people think a calendar is simply a tool for managing time. I don't. I think it's something much more profound. I think your calendar reveals your identity. And perhaps even more importantly, it rehearses it. Because every day your schedule is quietly training you to become someone. The question isn't whether your calendar is shaping your future. It already is. The question is it shaping the future you actually desire to have? Today, I want to share 3 revelations that completely transform the way that I think about time, purpose, and identity. Because I no longer believe the most important thing you can do is manage your calendar. I believe the most important thing you can do is intentionally schedule the person you're becoming. Here's my first revelation about this. Your calendar reveals your current identity. Your calendar reveals your current identity. Now, before you push back on that statement, let me explain what I mean. I'm not saying that your calendar tells me everything about you. I'm not saying emergencies don't happen that change your calendar. I'm not saying there aren't seasons in your life where your schedule is dictated by circumstances that are well beyond your control. All of those things are absolutely true. But if I were to look at your calendar over the course of several months, patterns would begin to emerge. Not because of one busy week, not because of one unexpected crisis, but because patterns reveal priorities and priorities reveal identity, even if these are things that you're doing subconsciously. I think before we can understand this revelation, we have to clear away 4 myths that almost all of us have believed about our calendars. The first myth is this: my calendar simply reflects my obligations. Most people believe they're living a life that has been handed to them. My boss controls my calendar. My kids control my calendar. My clients control my calendar. My church controls my calendar. My responsibilities control my calendar. And certainly there are obligations that we all have. I'm not suggesting that we abandon responsibility, but I am suggesting something that may be more uncomfortable. Even within our obligations, we're still making choices. Every single day, every time we say yes to one thing, we are simultaneously saying no to countless other things. Every commitment creates invisible commitments. Every appointment creates invisible appointments that will never happen. When you choose one path, you're choosing not to walk another. Your calendar is not simply a list of obligations, it's a record of thousands of decisions. The second myth I want to tell you about is we tend to think being busy means that we're being productive. Our culture almost celebrates exhaustion. I wish I could be like Judah back here and just take a nap. Well, you can. You just may have to schedule it in your calendar. People wear busyness like a badge of honor. I'm slammed. I've been running all day. I haven't stopped even once, as though being constantly overwhelmed is proof somehow that we're making a difference. But movement isn't the same as momentum. Activity isn't the same as alignment. You can spend an entire day crossing things off your to-do list and never get 1 inch closer to the life that you're trying to create. I've learned there's a tremendous difference between living reactively and living intentionally. Reactive people spend their days responding. Purpose-driven people, they spend their days creating. One is constantly putting out fires while the other is building something that lasts. Being busy doesn't necessarily mean that you're building your future. Sometimes it simply means that you're maintaining your present. Myth number 3, when life slows down, I'll make time for what really matters. Have you ever noticed that someday never seems to arrive? That time when life slows down never seems to actually get here. We tell ourselves, well, when work settles down, or when the kids get older, or when things are more calm, or when this season passes, then I'll write the book, then I'll start the business, then I'll prioritize my health, then I'll take my spouse on more dates, then I'll pursue my purpose. But life has a way of replacing one busy season with another busy season. Margin rarely appears by accident. My friends, it has to be created intentionally. The truth is, we don't eventually schedule what matters most. We schedule what matters most now, even if it starts with just 30 minutes. And myth number 4 is this: someone else controls my calendar. This may be the biggest of all 4 of these myths. Because while there are certainly seasons where our freedom is limited, there is almost always more choice than we realize. Maybe you can't choose every meeting, but you can choose how you prepare for it. Maybe you can't choose every responsibility, but you can choose whether it aligns with the person you're becoming. Maybe you can't choose every hour, but you can choose some of them. And over weeks and months and years, those choices of you putting yourself as the top priority become a life. They become your life. And that's why I don't believe our calendars primarily reveal our circumstances. I believe they reveal our values, because eventually our values always find their way onto our calendar. Not perfectly, but consistently. Which led me to this realization that completely changed the way I was thinking about time. I stopped asking, how do I become more productive? And I started asking, what kind of person would schedule a life like this? Because your calendar doesn't simply tell the story of what you did. It quietly reveals the story of who you believe yourself to be. If you've heard me for a while on this podcast, you know I talk a lot about identity. And a calendar is yet another revelation of who we believe ourselves to be. And once I realized that, I couldn't look at my own calendar the same way again. The second revelation I had about this is that your calendar is rehearsing your future identity. When I first realized that my calendar was revealing my identity, I made a surprising discovery. It wasn't just revealing who I was, it was rehearsing who I was becoming. Think about that for a minute. Every day, your calendar is training you. It's reinforcing habits. It is strengthening priorities. It is creating patterns. It is the outward manifestation of your mental paradigm. Casting votes for a particular version of yourself, whether you realize it or not. Your schedule is quietly asking that same question over and over again. Who are you becoming? And every appointment in your calendar is answering that question. I experienced this firsthand when I walked away from my career in the flooring industry in outside sales. From the outside, I didn't have to do it. It didn't make any sense. The business was very successful. I made a good bit of money, and it really wasn't a difficult job. It provided a good living, and people respected what I had built. Nothing was broken, but something inside of me had awakened. I knew there was another chapter waiting for me. At first, I thought what I needed was a new career or a new business or a new source of income. That's when I got my real estate license while I still worked there, and I started selling real estate, which I'm still passionate about, but I know it's not my purpose. And looking back, I realized that it wasn't just a new business I needed. It wasn't just a new career. It wasn't even a new source of income. What I needed, what I was searching for, was a new identity. Because my old identity had created my old calendar. And for years, my identity was one of an employee. Yes, I was in management. And yes, I was a sales director. And yes, I had people who reported to me, but I still reported to the owner of the company. And in my mind, I was an employee. And so I measured success by checking things off of a list because that's what a good worker bee does. I stayed busy, check. I responded quickly to emails, check. I solved the next flooring installation problem, check. I worked harder for my boss, check. I made tons of money for the owner of the company, check. There isn't anything wrong with hard work. In fact, you know me. If you know me, I still believe in it. But I realized something. The calendar that helped me succeed in one season of my life was not the calendar that would lead me into the next one. The person I had been could not create the life I believed I was being called to build. I had to stop asking, what do I need to do? And instead, I needed to start asking, who do I need to become? And then the question is, does my calendar match my identity? That question changes everything because before my schedule changed, my thinking changed. I stopped seeing myself primarily as someone who completed tasks. I started seeing myself as someone who created the future. I had to shift from an employee mindset to the mindset of a CEO, of a founder, of a coach, of a speaker, of an author, of a podcaster, of a creator. And if you notice something, those aren't just job titles. Those, my friends, those are identities. Because a CEO doesn't simply manage today's work. A CEO designs tomorrow's organization. A founder doesn't simply maintain what's been built. A founder imagines what doesn't even exist yet. A coach doesn't just solve problems. A coach develops people. A creator doesn't wait for inspiration. A creator creates. And once I embraced those identities, something fascinating happened. My calendar started changing almost automatically. I didn't wake up one morning and decide, I think I'll color code my calendar today. No, and I respect that. I have an amazing administrative assistant who has a color-coded calendar, and that's why she's my assistant. She's so organized with her calendar. But that wasn't exactly the change I needed. I had to start asking myself different questions. Not what color should I make each task on my calendar, but questions like, if I'm becoming a creator, what am I creating? If I'm a coach, then where am I investing deeply in people? As a CEO, when I'm thinking strategically, am I actually reacting or am I being preactive? Please pardon me while I interrupt your podcast episode with a quick message. If you're enjoying today's episode, can I ask you one small favor? If you're watching on YouTube, just please take a second to hit that little bell and subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button and share this. Share it with someone who needs some encouragement today. Also, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, I need your help there too. I would be so grateful if you'd follow the show, leave a 5-star rating and review, and share this episode with a friend. These simple actions make a tremendous difference in the growth of this show. They help these conversations reach more people who are searching for hope, searching for purpose, searching for practical mindset tools that will transform their lives. And if you're looking for even more motivation, mindset strategies, and purpose-driven content, I would love to connect with you on social media. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at John Street Official. Also, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. Just search for John Street. And then one last very important thing. If you've ever found yourself asking questions like, why am I here? Am I living my purpose? How do I get unstuck in life? How do I take my life to the next level? Then I would love to invite you to schedule a free clarity call with me. Let me be clear. This is not a sales call. This is not a coaching call with someone from my team. This is nothing pre-recorded. This is a real one-on-one coaching conversation with me. And together we will explore where you are, where you want to go, and what may be standing in your way. My goal is simply to help you gain greater clarity, direction, and momentum in reaching your goals. To connect with me, to schedule your clarity call, or to learn more about the Revolution of Purpose coaching programs that I offer, please visit johnstreet.org or reach out to me on any of the social media platforms I mentioned. And now, let's get you back to today's episode. I didn't wake up one morning and decide, I think I need to color code my calendar. No, I started asking different questions. There's nothing wrong with a color-coded calendar. By the way, I do use one now, and my administrative assistant is the best at it. And that's why she works for me, because she's so organized and her calendar is a rainbow of different priorities. And I think it's amazing. But to actually make the identity shift, there's more than that. I started asking different questions. If I'm being a creator, then what am I creating? Or if I am being a coach, then where am I investing deeply in people? Or if I'm being a CEO of this company of John Street Global, then when am I thinking strategically instead of just reacting? If I'm becoming a founder, what time have I protected to build something that will outlive today's to-do list? Do you see the difference? I wasn't scheduling tasks anymore. I was scheduling identities. I wasn't putting record podcast on my calendar. I was making an appointment with the creator inside of me. I wasn't simply blocking off time for coaching calls and clarity calls. I was investing in becoming the coach I believed I was called to be. I wasn't setting aside time for strategy because someone told me successful business owners should do that. Instead, I was honoring the CEO that I had chosen to become and taking aligned action. Awaken, become, align, create. And y'all, that's when another realization hit me. The calendar I kept living by was continually recreating the life that I already had. If I wanted a different future, I couldn't keep rehearsing the same life, because every day you rehearse something, you rehearse stress, or you rehearse peace, you rehearse scarcity, or you rehearse abundance. You rehearse reacting, or you rehearse being intentional. You rehearse comfort or courage, growth or stagnation. Every day, your calendar is teaching your mind this is who we are. And eventually, your identity begins to agree. And that's why I believe calendars are far more powerful than most people realize. They're not simply organizational tools, they're training grounds. They don't just help you remember appointments, they help shape the person who keeps those appointments. Which brings us to what I believe is the most practical revelation of all. If your calendar is rehearsing your future, then maybe it's time to stop scheduling your task and start scheduling the person you're becoming. The third revelation is schedule the person you're becoming. So if everything we talked about today is true, and if your calendar is revealing your identity, and if your calendar is rehearsing your future, then a very practical question emerges. How do we begin changing that? Not by buying a new planner, not by downloading another productivity app, not by color coding our calendar a little bit better. Those things are helpful, and they might help you become more organized, but they won't necessarily help you become someone who is different. I think transformation begins with a completely different question. Instead of asking, what do I need to get this week? Ask yourself, who am I becoming? And what would that person schedule for this week? I want to encourage you to stop scheduling your life and start scheduling your identity. And I know that sounds a little bit pie in the sky and maybe a little bit vague, but here's what I mean by that. Most of us open our calendars and immediately begin filling them with tasks. Grocery shopping here, team meeting here, doctor appointment here, record podcast here, answer emails here. Those things matter and they have to get done. But they're not the most important thing on your calendar, because behind every task, behind everything you schedule, there is an identity. You aren't just going to the gym, you're becoming a healthy person. You aren't just taking your spouse to dinner, you're becoming a loving husband, a present wife, a person who values your marriage and relationship. You aren't just writing a chapter, you're becoming an author. You aren't just making sales calls, you're becoming someone who serves people with courage and with confidence. You aren't just spending time in prayer or meditation. You're becoming someone who lives from a centered and grounded spirit and surrenders to God, your source, your higher power. Do you see the difference? The task may only take an hour, but the identity, it will last your lifetime. And that's why I no longer think in terms of what do I have to do today. I try to begin with a different question. Who has God called me to become today? If that language doesn't connect with you, try this. Who is the highest version of myself inviting me to become today? Once you answer that question, your calendar becomes so much easier to build. Because now I'm not simply scheduling activities, I'm giving time to the identities that I want to cultivate. For me, I identified 4 primary identities that I believe describe this next season of my life, and that is CEO, coach, creator, and founder. And those 4 priorities now shape every week that I plan. When I time block strategically. I'm honoring the CEO of who I am with John Street Global. When I'm preparing for a coaching call with my clients, I'm investing in the coach identity of myself. When I'm writing, when I'm recording a podcast, or when I'm just creating content on Facebook and social media and Instagram, I'm giving space to the creator within me, that identity. When I'm building systems that will one day impact people I'll never meet around the world, I'm thinking like a founder. Now, your identities may be completely different. I'm sure they are. They could be father or mother. They could be artist, teacher, entrepreneur, student. It could be leader, friend, servant. It could be healthy person. It could be millionaire. Those specific identities don't matter near as much as the principle behind them. Whatever identities you fail to schedule eventually begin to disappear beneath the weight of everything else that takes priority. Because life is incredibly good at filling empty spaces. If you don't intentionally create space for the person you're becoming, urgency will gladly fill it for you. Emails will fill that space. Meetings will fill it. Notifications that pop up on your phone will fill it. Doom scrolling will fill it. Other people's priorities will certainly fill that space. And before long, you'll wake up wondering why you feel disconnected from the life that you wanted so badly to create. Not because you lacked passion, not because you lacked intelligence or talent, but because you never gave your future a safe place to live in your calendar, a protected place in your priorities. Think about that. Your calendar is not just making appointments, it's making the room, the space that you need, space for the kind of marriage that you want, space for the kind of health that you desire, space for the kind of business that you envision, space for the kind of relationship with your higher power, with the source, with the creator of the universe that you desire to have, space for the kind of impact that you want your life to have. If there's no room in your calendar, those things rarely happen by accident. And that's why I believe one of the most spiritual things we can do is align our calendar with our calling. Because alignment isn't merely believing the right things. Alignment is allowing your calendar to tell the same story your heart has already begun to believe. And that's exactly what happened in my own life. Long before my business changed, my calendar changed. Long before my income changed, my calendar changed. Long before my influence grew, my calendar changed. Because I stopped scheduling the life I had and started scheduling the life I believed I was being called to create. And that, my friends, is the power of alignment. It doesn't have to look like perfection. It needs to look like direction. One intentional hour, one intentional day, one intentional week at a time. So I want to leave you with an exercise this week. And I want you to read your own autobiography. And I know you may be saying, what do you mean, read my own autobiography? Well, it's simple. Obviously, if you're driving, don't do this right now. But when you are stopped, when you can pull out your calendar on your phone, when you can pull out your day planner, if you are someone who still has a day planner, kudos to you. I want you to look at it, and I don't want you to look at next week or even next month. I want you to look at the last 30 days. And now I want you to imagine something. Imagine that I know absolutely nothing about you. I don't know your name, your age, your career, your faith, your dreams. I don't know what you say matters most to you. The only thing you've handed me is your calendar of the last 30 days. What story would it tell? What conclusions would I draw about your life from your calendar? What would I conclude is most important to you and receives your best energy? What would I conclude you value or that you're becoming? Are you becoming healthier? Are you building deeper relationships? Are you growing spiritually? Would I conclude that you're becoming the leader you hope to be? Would I conclude that you're creating something meaningful? Or would I conclude that you've spent the last month simply surviving, simply reacting, putting out fires, responding to everyone else's priorities while quietly postponing your own calling? My friends, this is not something that should be shaming you or making you feel guilty or anything. This is just a hard truth. If you want to change your identity, your priorities have to match your new identity. And if we're being honest with ourselves, we have to realize that aligning our calendar with who we're becoming is the key to changing our lives. Our past appointments may tell yesterday's stories, but they don't have to write tomorrow's. You can begin writing a different autobiography today, not by changing your entire life overnight, but by changing one appointment, by changing the direction. 1 hour, one priority tomorrow, one intentional decision next week. Because remember, your future is not built all at once. It's built by ordinary moments. It's built on Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. or Wednesday afternoons at 2 p.m., Saturday mornings before everyone else wakes up. Those ordinary moments become the extraordinary lives we desire to live. Every appointment you make is casting that vote for the identity you desire to live. So before you fill out next week's calendar, don't ask yourself what has to get done. Ask yourself, what kind of person am I becoming? And then decide that you're going to align that creator with that person. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Revolution of Purpose. I hope this really resonated with you. And please be sure to check out the next Conversations episode I have. And of course, each Monday, the solo episodes to follow. Thank you so much for watching, and you have an amazing, intentionally planned week. God bless. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, if it challenged you, or if it helped you see your life a little bit differently, would you do me a favor? Subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating or review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Every share helps us reach more people who are searching for hope, purpose, and a life of greater meaning. And if you're ready to stop wondering what's next and start living with greater clarity and purpose in your own life, I would love to meet with you personally. Visit johnstreet.org right now to schedule your complimentary live purpose and clarity call with me. Until next time, remember, your purpose is not something you find. It is something you awaken to, and then you choose to live it. Go make today another step in your own revolution of purpose.